There we go.
All right. Hi,
Oh
everybody.
my.
This is a little bit of a Zoom, I don't know, a little what you call it, but we're going to talk a little bit because the other recording got cut off and we missed a little bit of the stuff from Martha and a little bit of the stuff from Betsy that is probably important. So I think Martha is going to talk a little bit about her horse, and she's much calmer and softer today. So she can maybe she can talk a little bit about just how she felt at the beginning of the appointment. And there was one comment that was like, are we going to stand here and watch this horse eat grass? And I thought that was great because that definitely would have been something I would have said earlier in my existence as a veterinarian, because I didn't really appreciate the value of standing around sometimes. Sometimes standing around is really important. And I think, like, just kind of going back to early in my career, I took a job with a group practice at the racetrack in Louisiana, and these people were sons of bitches. But anyway, the guy was a really quite a good PR. I mean, he was a very good representation. He was a great salesman. We had all the top clients. We had a big practice, and we could be getting up to the barn and all hell will be breaking loose. Everything will be going on. You would have no idea. And he would walk in that shed row and it would be like he just had all the time in the world. And there was just absolutely nothing else more important than what was going on right now. And his voice was never up or just Southern charm oozing anyway. And I just really embraced that because yeah, you don't need to, it can be an exercise in being aware of where you are in your nervous system, number one, and then B, actually being aware enough and caring enough to sort of do something about it. And so anyway, I will let Martha go from there.
So, should I just kind of go through Toro's history, or?
Yeah, maybe a little bit about his history, and just maybe, yeah, and just because I think what they missed that, and just also like just sort of what was, they missed sort of the first 45 minutes, and there wasn't really a lot going on. We were mostly just standing around talking and just kind of giving, in my mind, just giving the whole experience some space, because everybody was a little bit, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of energy. It's contraction. And so just kind of, I don't know if you were sort of aware that there was kind of a, 30 minutes of sort of,
Yeah,
white space there
wind
or
down.
not, right?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
anyway.
So, yeah, Toro is my 13-year-old off the track thoroughbred that I got when he was 6. So I've had him for 7 years. I guess I got him when he was about 6.5. He came off the track at 5.5, maybe just before he was 5.5. He started 12 times, come in last or second last in all of his races. And he came off, and I think he went pretty much directly to an eventer who flips thoroughbreds off the track. And he was there for a couple months, and then he went to someone else who took him a little further and had him maybe for the summer, I think, and then she flipped him and sold him to a kid who was in a program riding him, and he started bucking the kid off. So she got scared, and then he got sold again, and he sat in the field for a little bit, and then he went to a trainer. And I was in vet school at the time, so I met him at that trainer's, and I bought him. He was a really lovely, like, sweet in your pocket kind of guy. Had nice movement. I had dreams of kind of low level dressage with him, and he was great for about 5 months before he started catastrophically coming unglued at things like someone opening a door or turning down center line, and I was tossed off him 3 times and scared. And yeah, we've been on a journey. I've got him in my 4th year of vet school, so I've worked him through the conventional system of vet med. He has had hock injections, and he's had ultrasounds and x-rays, and he had a ligament snip. So that's where they go in, they cut the ligaments in between the impinging dorsal spinous processes on his back. He had that in 6 spots. And yeah, we've been on a journey. So he improved a lot after the surgery. In his demeanor, he was less painful, but he never has been able to come back into work. Every time he's been put into some more serious expectation, he falls apart, and he often presents with problems in his hind end and problems in his pole where he wants to hyperflex or be behind the vertical. He will start to stumble in his front end. And so in searching for answers, because I've fallen in love, and also I feel committed to figuring out the answer, because he doesn't feel like a horse that you can easily sell in good consciousness to someone else. I've gone down the balance through movement method. I've done the nerve release course. I've worked with Rachel, and I'm just trying to figure out how to get him to let go a little. And we've had lots of improvement, but it still feels like there's missing pieces. And yeah.
That sounds like such a common scenario, for that particular the thoroughbreds with the kissing spines, right? I mean, and why, I mean, you mentioned to me that, because I actually don't have a lot of experience, sort of firsthand with the surgery or even talking about it. You have a lot more. And you did mention to me that was common for the horses to do well for a little while after the surgery, and then not, was kind of a pattern that you recognized, or they
Yeah.
recognized, or somebody recognized?
Well, yeah, when you look at the literature, it's like a fairly significant, like 70 to 80% of them can go back into work and achieve some success at the level or lower levels than what they were before. But those studies are looking at basically a year post-op, maybe 2 years in some cases. And my theory, after experiencing the surgery with Toro and also doing some of my own anecdotal research and talking to people and all of that, is that the surgery basically is a neurectomy. So it is a fairly invasive, brutal surgery is the way the surgeon described it to me. It's a standing surgery, so they're not under anesthetic, but it does involve some brute force, basically, to try and cut this ligament that's in between the dorsal spinous processes that come off the spine. And so they go in through one side of the horse's back and they slice up with their knife. And I think that basically cuts a lot of the nerves that are conveying that there's instability and pain in the area. And that is why you see such dramatic improvement in their demeanor immediately post-op, and also potentially why, 3 or 4 years post-op, some of the hypervigilance and pain behavior comes back. And I mean, I've gone down the guilt road where, you think, man, if I could just rehab him and make his back stronger, then he would have the muscles to support himself, and we wouldn't be cycling back into this kind of pain cycle. But as I've mentioned, I just feel like every time I have tried to bring him back into work, other things start to fall apart. So that makes it very hard to do the poles, or, and a lot of the conventional rehab is like long and low and do pull work and do hills. And I feel that if you have a horse that has a lot of instability, and kissing spines to me is a disease of instability. and the body is starting to try and create stability by creating increased mineral deposits in between those spinous processes, which of course does cause pain and inflammation. But if you're not addressing the instability, then you're not addressing the root cause. And so to try and build muscle on either side of the spine, it makes sense to me in some ways that he's never been able to achieve that because there's a reason why he has instability in the first place, and that shows up, and maybe no longer his back is like killing him and he's not trying to kill me, although sometimes he does trigger fairly easily. But yeah, we need to get to the reason why he's got instability before you can rehab the back.
Betsy, do you want to comment a little bit on the rehab and why it's so crappy, what they suggest and
Yeah. Well, I was gonna
was
say,
it better?
yeah. Well, we recapped a little bit too. Like we did when we talked about whether or not you worked on a scar tissue. Like we covered that. If anyone's wondering that, like that was part of the conversation. And I'm just trying to recap too what was covered. And we talked about for him, like the pull tension. We talked about working from the right side was a big piece. Like starting the session from the right side to help with some of that. Starting the session new. And then, yeah, for conventional rehab, like a lot of conventional rehab doesn't address, like, it's like people are jumping right into strengthening, or either like, yes, the long and low theory is to release and expand. But if, like Martha's saying, and like Dr. Rachel's, we're talking about this instability, why are we unstable in the first place? Just asking the horse to body build is not going to fix the problem. Putting on compressive devices that literally compresses the horse even more is not going to create long-term success. It may create a more shut down robot, and it may appear like they may start to look better, but then often I see it pop up all the time in the kissing spine groups I'm in. Well, I've been cleared back under tack, but then they post a video of the horse and it doesn't even have a true walk. It's tail swishing under saddle. It's still compressed. Its junctions are still terrible. It's limbs. It can't track up. Like there's still all of these issues where they did the classic, uniform rehab. And I think that the issue I see is that people aren't being taught quality. They're just being taught quantity. Here's the time. Here's the exercise. Week by week, you're going to do this. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. Nowhere in there does it say benchmark. Your horse is now able to do this. Progress to next step. It's given out in time frames, assuming that the horses will all be making those same benchmarks, which we all know is not realistic. And then the owners are just following the rehab plan, which is like, okay, I walk, okay, I trot, okay, I lunge, okay, I Pessoa, I side reins, I carrot stretch. And there's no definition of quality in there of what does a quality movement look like? What does a stable movement look like? What does a true walk look like? And again, I don't fault vets for that. Like, were you guys taught that in vet school? Like, were you right? Or were you taught limb lameness? Like, and that's what, when I talk to a lot of vets, they're like, I wasn't taught body lameness. I wasn't taught, I was just taught, is the horse limping or not limping? Is the horse lame or not lame? Not what does a true sound, totally integrated walk look like? Walk, trot, canter. Do they exist? Are they functioning together? So when we just go right to adding ground rails and compression systems, it doesn't address why the horse has kissing spine in the first place. And it also doesn't address the nervous system. That's the biggest thing for me too, is especially with Pessoa and side reins, is you're trapping this horse. Like you're trapping this prey animal who's already obviously sympathetic to a degree because their body's unstable. And then you're trapping them. And you're just making them more tense and bracy, and they dump further into their pull. And they, that especially the things that come straight back. What are we doing? Compressing the tongue, constricting the hyoid, shutting down the connection to the pelvis, which is exactly, they're like, drive the hind end under with the Pessoa that gets them front and back. But it's you're pulling back, you're shutting it all down. So anyways,
I made so
many on that.
I made so many enemies when I bashed the Curacore, that band system.
Oh, yeah.
Like
That's supposed to be
Iglesias,
proprioceptive, but again, it's like,
they have no idea what they just,
most horses aren't at the place. And like, I was just on a call with a horse who was kissing spine, and her external abdominals are in brace because she doesn't have stable limbs.
right.
So that's exactly where
you
people
have
put
to
that
make
band.
you have to make the legs of the table stable. And the problem with
Mhm.
the long and low is that they're outsourcing everything to their front end and to their
Mhm.
head. You get the 5-car pile up behind their shoulder, and the pull
Mhm.
tension never goes away, right? And
No.
so
Mhm.
you have to get them back in their bodies. They don't want to go. The last place they want to send their energy is to that thoracic spine, because it's terrifying. You know, they think if they rock
Mhm.
back even a little bit and put it in a little bit of compression, they're gonna they're gonna get a nerve fire, they're gonna get some kind of pain. And so it's having to
Mhm.
bridge that space using your table legs and activating your table legs, which was kind of
Mhm.
the theme. But it's so, and then we talk about the stability, and you know, the intrinsic stability comes from the little tiny ligaments, the ones that they put their knives through, um, between the
Mhm.
vertebral process. I mean, that's where sort of our
Mhm.
intrinsic stability comes in. And, you know, I have seen horses that are painful like that with kissing spine. And I actually don't, you know, from a a real, like, I don't really hate that surgery so much from a point where the horses are in a lot of pain and they get out of pain. What I hate is what they do afterward. If they then went straight to appropriate stabilizing rehab to create that space. You know, you when you do a neurectomy, you get a period of time where you can really work with the horses and they're not in pain. And if you kind of, you know, use that time really effectively to get the appropriate space made between those um, vertebrae, and then as the scar tissue grows in and the nerves grow back, you know, you kind of manage them with shock wave or with injections as need be, always
Mhm.
keeping a mind on that space. I think that you can hierarchy out of that surgery somewhat, if, you know, if you are at that point where the horses are just unmanageably painful, you know, where
Mhm.
you just,
Yes.
you know, they just, it's either like put them down or get them out of pain. I think that's a reasonable surgery. I didn't realize they weren't cutting the dorsal spinous ligament, so you still do have the integrity of the top line.
Yes.
So, you know, again,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of hope for these horses, and I think that there's a lot of hope for Toro just because of his really good gaits, right? His good nervous system. He's shown, you know, so many glimpses of the fact that things can work normally, that I believe if we can just put that, I think that with a horse like him, and kind of what we showed in the session was that we were putting back in the problem all the time, right? We're going 2 steps forward and then 1 3/4 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 3/4 step back. Then we go 3 steps back because we were so aggravated because we come back and we were only a 1/4 step forward after putting in
Mhm.
like 200% effort, right? And so it's like understanding. And if we can just go instead 5% forward today, 5% forward 2 days from today, and every time we come back, you know, we haven't lost that ground because we're working from the legs, from the stability, from the activation only. You've done all the other work. You've created a lot of that awareness of space. It's just now giving him the concept of using it, right? You know, you've, and so how is he, by the way? Just like how, like what have you noticed? I mean, I know that picture, he looked really settled. I thought that you sent me, you know, really flat to his back and stuff, but
Yeah. Um, yeah, he's been good. I've done the exercises twice. And kind of to Betsy's point, sorry, this is a little bit of a maybe
Yeah.
a loop, but it's something that my brain was like, oh, um, I think that the humanness of us all, we we often want to go through um, the motions without, like, so our horses have trouble sometimes embodying their bodies, like to be physically present. But I think
Mhm.
people do as well. I'm speaking for myself, but I would make the leap to say that I'm not alone in this.
nope.
And
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
so yesterday, so I just went back to work and I had some long days, but it was great. And I came back and I see the two kids, and then at the end of the day, I was like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to put Toro on his Surefoot pads. And and it is a bit of a like a check the box thing. Like I want to do this before the end of the week, and I'm going to go do it now. The weather's good. I'm going to get outside and do it. And of course, I put him on the pads, and he doesn't want to stand on the pads, right? He's being kind of rude and belligerent. And then I thought, I just need to watch him shift his weight onto the pad. Like I need to stop thinking about the prescription to do all 4 legs and take him for a walk. I need to stop thinking about the week of walk and then going up to the trot and then doing the Pessoa. Like I need to just watch him. And that to me it was like, that was the critical piece, was to just like to watch him. And it's not like you're seeing anything that you haven't seen before. It's just that you're paying attention to it. And and so that was successful. We did 2 legs.
Amazing.
Just the front legs. And then I did pull a selfish, and I put his bridle on and I put his bareback pad on, and he stood perfect. Like there's no dancing around. He just walked up to the fence, and I got on him, and we walked down the road, and he had a little sniff, and it's like an exploratory walk where he's chewing on bark and kind of taking the path where he wanted to go, but it was totally relaxed. Yeah. And so that was the thing for me, was like, it's not about doing it to do it. Sometimes it's about slowing down and just like actually paying attention. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of mental work, but I
want to cry for you. I'm so proud of you. Because this is what, like, I just want people to know is like the quality, the presence, the intentional, like we're here together and we did it. That is where the progress comes from. And if you can only do that once a week, but you had this beautiful moment of intentional and everyone was there and you got this, you like saw, oh, we loaded the pad. It's not the putting them on the pad. Like you said, he actually loaded the pad. It's remembering why we're doing what we're doing. And it's the quality. Like that's just the best way I can think of, like quality versus quantity, right? A lot of rehab is quantity and increasing quantity of time and exertion and all these things, but no one's paying attention to how are we actually doing it, right? And that's what you did. You went, it's not that he stands on the pad, it's that, can he load the pad once? Okay, move on, right? And that was so beautifully said.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, I was just going to go for it.
Zoom.
We get really stuck in these linear healing patterns where we're checking boxes instead of sort of the foundational, or just kind of non-linear sort of seeing what's going on. And it's like they don't really heal in a linear fashion. And we do have the powers of observation, and we do have tools, and we do have the ability to pivot, but we get so sort of focused on the linear. But once you kind of get used to not being linear and you get used to just sort of doing what your instinct or your gut or your feeling tells you, you bring a lot more joy to it as well. And it's like doing this stuff with joy, like you went out there with a little more joy, I'm hoping, than normal. It shouldn't be a chore. It should be like the whole thing, it is in the journey with these horses. If you decide that your only journey with them is at the end of when you're done with your rehab, then you're really going to have a problem when you get there, because you've missed all this time, and it doesn't really make any sense to the horse to approach things that way, because they think of every interaction as part of that end process. It's just a different stop in the way that you're at, but it's equally as important to them, I think, that you be present. And I think that that's where, even when you decide that you're going to listen to them instead of check your boxes, that shifts everything right then and there. That you're not out there with an agenda, that you're out there to have a conversation and collect data. Like for me, it's just collecting data, right? Like the fact that Louis was rolling on both sides, now he's rolling on one side. Now I've got to go do whatever. I'll like, it's just data, but it's something that's different, that was better, right? So maybe I need to shockwave him again. I don't know, but that's all you want to think about, is just it's time where they get to give you data and you get to listen to them and move forward in your experience together.
Yeah. And so this is what I was going to say when we were having our moment, but it fits in nicely afterwards too. So when you talk about linear, like I would have previously been like, oh, well, you know, if he's not sound enough that I can't canter a 20-meter circle without, you know, him swishing his tail or tossing his head or being sore afterwards, then he's not sound enough to ride. And I would certainly have thought like, it's terrible advice to try and ride a horse with kissing spines with a bareback pad, or I would have, you know, like I would have put all these limitations on myself. And so that then the pressure is even more because I'm like, oh, I really like I love taking care of you. I love learning from you. I like doing the rehab, but I also like sometimes want to be off. Like I just do want to go for a ride, or I just want to have some joy. And and so taking the linearity out of it and just being like he loaded the pad, his eye was soft. I offered him the bridle. He didn't say no. I've ridden him in a saddle. He doesn't like the saddle. I bought this nice bareback pad for him. He likes the bareback pad. We just go for a little walk, like, and not being like, oh, well, that's not allowed because of his pathology or because we haven't reached this point in his rehab. And it's like, if you just listen to them, then you get to find joy without always waiting for like Christmas morning, everything to line up and like, oh, we get this one moment where everything's okay and let's go. But it's like, let's just take it day by day. And, you know, and maybe tomorrow, if I pull him out, he won't feel like being ridden, and that's okay too. Like I can hand walk him or do something else. Like it's okay.
Yeah, that's always how I felt about it. I mean, Louis came in one time. I mean, he was non-weight bearing laying behind and his shoe was off, a brand new shoe. And I was like, oh God, like non-weight bearing behind leg is kind of gross. And I mean, I survey x-rayed the limb. There was nothing broken. And I'm like, threw him in a stall. And when he didn't like being in the stall anymore, I gave him, and I mean, every day I took him out and did stuff with him, like something, right? We walked or we hung out or we did surefoot pads. It was actually a lot more work for me having him on rehab, but I always just did what he could. If he wanted to come out of the stall, if he could stand on it, like then we would come out of the stall. And it was always just, asking him what he was ready to do. And when he was, I mean, it just wasn't that difficult, in my opinion, to figure out, because I figure he's a lot smarter than I am about what he can do with his body. And this concept that these horses are going to blow themselves to bits is because we don't have any kind of relationship with them. They're not in their bodies. They're just reacting to everything around them. There is no conversation. There is no connection. And again, this is what I really learned through the BTM, was just that anybody can create that connection with their horse. Like anybody can create that connection. I mean, some of them, it might be hard. You might need help, but there actually are, because there's people on Zoom, that means that anybody with Wi-Fi can find someone to help them create that connection, and they can do it, in my opinion. So therefore
that's been huge, like, because he was the type of horse that, if you turned him out with a bunch of friends in a, quote unquote, more natural habitat, he would always come in cut up, busted eye, lame, like, and since starting the balance through movement stuff, like you can tell that he doesn't get hurt as much, right? And while he does unregulate, we're getting better at regulating, and it,
yeah.
But then my humanness also is like, you can't have bad days. Like, why are you being like this today when you weren't like this for like, so.
But from a Chinese medicine standpoint, like it literally could be something you ate, right? I mean, seriously, like, because now that I'm understanding the how like our livers can be out of balance and how sensitive the horses are to our energy, whether it's an organ energy or a physical energy, an aura energy, I personally think that a lot of the you know, any all of the sort of negative traits that we humans share to the world, like anger and anxiety and frustration and you know, impatience, all that stuff we put out there, stress, is all, you know, unbalancing to the liver or representative of an unbalanced liver. And like, so the horses also are very unbalanced in their livers. And so I think they're very sensitive to that. So, I mean, seriously, it could be a bad night's sleep. It could be something as far away as something you don't even relate at all to the moment that you're coming to the barn. I'm thinking, I mean, that's another, that's a whole nother whatever, but like, I do
The
believe
whole
that,
other thing. Yeah.
yeah, no, because I've been, you know, my recent retreat and everything, I had my liver treated and I've been doing a lot of work on it. I've had 2 huge liver detoxes where I've been in bed for 2 days, and everything about the herd is changing. Everything about the way they're behaving is changing. Everything about the way they're relating to me is changing. All the animals are changing. My people in my cohort are like seeing a big difference. You know, and so like I sense that you can have, you know, just like a person can be so, you know, you get around Frederick Pignon, you know, the Cavalia guy, and it's just like, I mean, you just want to get next to him. He's so, you know, his energy field is so inviting.
Inviting. Yeah.
And the horses, like, all they want to do, they just want to like stand next to him and just be in his pot, like. And so anyway, I do believe there's, you know, there's more to that than meets the eye. And so I just would convince you to be really open-minded about those bad days and really think about it, right? Like, just really think about it. Did you get in a fight with somebody at work that morning? Did you, you know, get really frustrated? Because they do, they experience that stuff more. They can experience that stuff a lot more than we realize if they're connected to us, if they're not shut down, if they're open, blah, 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 right? And I know Louis is, I mean, you see the videos with him, right? Like, he's not subtle at all in how he feels about me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he's not at all subtle. And so when you have that kind of barometer all the time, you sort of realize that, you know, your personal stuff can play a role. But anyway, that was awesome, ladies. Now
I
I'm
was gonna
probably,
say, Martha, if you have to go, Rachel, we should just talk about the spine like we did at the very beginning.
yeah. Do
But
you
I
want to
know
put that
Martha
pic?
has to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Let
you can go. Yeah, let's put that spine. Do you have that
yeah.
picture you can put up? All right, yeah, let's put it
Well,
up.
and
And
do you have your little skeleton too? Do you
my,
have your
like,
little
my with
skeleton?
my in my hand. No, I don't have it here. I
Oh,
brought,
well, do you want, because you just talked, it was really important that you talked about, thanks, Martha. I just know that she has to go. So I'm just
yeah,
want
yeah.
to make
No,
sure we
it's
don't
cool.
keep her.
Yeah.
But
She's
we
gonna
were talking like, well, I just related to a client what you said about when you held up the spine and you talked about the lever. Do you want to talk about that? About when the lower, like the lower part of the vertebrae gets too close, will also bring the top
Yeah,
together? Because
yeah,
that was
yeah,
like, that was a
yeah,
big deal.
yeah. But I don't have my spine.
Little
But I
spine.
mean, just in terms of
Just
like,
describe
you
it.
know,
Yeah.
basically, I mean,
Oh,
when
here,
what
I
they
can
were
put some.
talking about with the surgery is they're cutting between those
There we
dorsal
go.
spinous ligaments, and those are at the um those are around the withers, right? So kind of right behind
Mm-hmm.
the withers is where they're doing it. And there was a picture up on Facebook of Toro scars, which were kind of right basically in the saddle area. And at that point, those spinous
Mm-hmm.
processes are about, you know, depending on the size of the horse, they can be that long. And so if those spinous processes are close at the top, then you've got a lot of compression at the bottom because of that lever is so long. And so when they start to cut that and they've still got it sort of connected at the top, and you've got this really long lever, you are creating a lot of destabilization of the actual vertebral bodies down here. And so the only,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what they wind up telling everybody to do is just to compress the whole thing like that. And now the horse can't feel anything, and it's all kind of crushed in together like that. And so I know that on Denali
Not
Equine, where
pretty.
they've done um, autopsies of the horses with the surgeries. I haven't seen the pictures, but I imagine there's a lot of pathology down here around the vertebra. And then you've got the nerves that are going out around here as well. And so the horse gets really, it's just a lot of scarring. It's a long lever. It's a lot of pathology of the levers down to the vertebrae. When you've got changes up here, what can happen down at the bottom. So it's a
Yeah.
getting everything spread apart and strengthened is not simple, but you've got to start by having the the work with the legs. Do you have your picture or?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, because what you said about that is like, I always thought about, the extension, right? And the top tipping together, but you were like, yeah, but don't forget, if there's compression too, and the vertebrae move together, they're going to be easy. Like, it's going to be easier for them to tip together and become unstable. So I just wanted to make sure we highlighted that, because that was a big, like, aha moment for me.
Yeah.
So
When they take that, when they take
oh,
that ligament out, it actually creates more
instability. So I just sent you the
more
request
instability.
to share. And we'll just we'll take a look at this photo. So Rachel did share this into the group too. So I don't think I can full screen it, but you guys get the idea. So this horse, so this is a kissing spine case that brought me to the balance movement method, because this horse had come to me. He didn't want to be caught. He had been bought by the owner in May. He came to me in November, and he had gotten to the point where she couldn't catch him. She bought him knowingly green broke. She brought him home. He bronked her off. She was an eventer by training. She had tried side range. She'd tried a lot of what would be, I guess, considered kissing spine rehab, not knowing that this horse had kissing spine. So he came to me. It took about a month for me to be able to just catch him and touch all over his body, doing connection work. And at that point, I was like, oh, your back's really sore. I had osteo. We had a PMF treatment. He was still really sore, and he had a little bit of right front lameness. But so we had the vet out, and she diagnosed him with kissing spine. So I just marked the x-rays here with the yellow line, because obviously when they took the second photos, they're shifted a little bit. But this is really cool. So he clinically resolved with kissing spine. But I wanted to show this because not only is there more space, you can see the bone remodeling reabsorbed. So this was something that my first mentor, Kate Armstrong, she's an osteopath, but was I think she said she had her own large animal vet practice, equine vet, for 20 plus years, then became an osteopath. And she had said to me, well, think about it. Like, if bone has laid down in a place that it wouldn't normally be, like isn't anatomically there, like we see in kissing spine, we get all this extra bone laying down. She's like, well, remember, like, and I know this from my paramedic training, osteoclasts and osteoblasts, bone is constantly being tore down and rebuilt. So she said, if you remove the irritation and you remove the need for the bone, it will reabsorb and it'll stop putting it back. And I'm like, well, duh, that makes sense. But I'd never seen an example of it until I had this kissing spine case. So these x-rays are exactly 12 weeks apart, almost to the day. My vet took them, and I walked in the barn after the owner was there, and she was like, what did you do? And I said, well, I did this balance movement method thing, but we did deep muscle injections, and we did I think a 5 or 6 day Banamine cycle on this horse to break his pain cycle. So that's where I'm not against conventional interventions if the horse is at that point. And I think some people think like, well, if we're not doing this, my issue is when vets want to jump from a kissing spine diagnosis to surgery, because there's so many less invasive things that we can do before we go to most invasive. And that's supposed to be medicine. It's supposed to be least invasive to most invasive intervention. And, I don't want to say the surgery is a quick fix, because as we just heard from Marthe, it was a temporary improvement, but there's so many things we can do in between that are less invasive and that may actually get to the root of the problem. And then we have the potential to have bone reabsorb. And this is not my only case that this has happened. I also had a 17-year-old barrel horse. He had side bone. He had a bunch of different things. And we worked with him. And I was like, his kissing spine was much more advanced. And I was like, I don't even know if we're going to improve this, but at this point it's fused. Let's see if we can make him comfortable. She took him back to her vet. He's down in Tennessee, and she x-rayed. I didn't even know she was going. She texted me. She's like, so he says he doesn't have kissing spine anymore. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she's like, yeah, we x-rayed his back, and the vet says he doesn't have kissing spine anymore. and wants to know what we did. And I was like, shut the front door,
We
right? And
gave him
I don't
some new
actually,
genes. We
we
changed
gave
his
him some new
genetic.
genes. That's all we did. But again, similar case. This was, you know, if you picture this classic quarter horse, very compressed, downhill presentation, and he had, you know, end thoracic into lumbar kissing spine. And she said, yeah, the vet says he doesn't have it anymore. So again, haven't seen those x-rays, but that's what was reported back to me, that he no longer kissing spine. So we can somewhat assume that some of that bone maybe stopped laying down anymore. So it's when you have one example like this, it to me it's possible, right? Is it going to work on every
Right.
horse?
Yep.
No, but there's the possibility based on biology, if you just understand the way that literally cell, it's not like you have one bone and it's there forever. It's constantly this cycle. And so if we remove the
Well,
need
yeah.
for the right for the instant, like we
And
remove
I
the
do
need.
believe,
Yeah.
it should work on every horse. You know, I do believe that the
Yeah,
horses it's
no,
not
it's
working
fair.
on,
It's a
you know,
possibility.
their
Yeah.
hips are not right. This isn't right. That isn't
Yep.
right. I mean, to me, this is a compensation. This is adaptive compensatory. You know, this is a symptom of adaptive compensatory posture,
Mm-hmm.
nothing else. Just like DSLD, just like all of these chronic conditions
Mm-hmm.
are that cannot be basically fixed with a linear treatment, right? You have to
Yes.
start elsewhere to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you can't go head and head with a horse trying to, you know, pull its spine together. You have to give it a base of support. He has to do
Mm-hmm.
that himself. He has to change that himself. You have to give him the right posture, the right tools, the right feedback. And sometimes, yes, you have to go in and you have to get the place
Break the
anesthetized
pain cycle or something.
break the
Yeah.
pain cycle. But it's again, for me, it's mindful about what you're doing. You're doing it mindfully and you're doing it
Mm-hmm.
to hierarchy out of the problem. You're doing it with, you know, a real intent of when you know that you're going to make a big difference, you're going to support the horse in a way so you can use that period of time to give him back, you know, what I call the manufacturer's specification so he can, you know,
Yes.
so he can use his body the way he's supposed to use it.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
but again, you have to treat everything. He has to feel safe in his environment so that he
Mm-hmm.
is feels safe to expand and it's going to be okay. He has to feel safe in his body so that he can expand, and he has to feel safe in the area itself. And so it's like, you know, and then you combine, you know, your feeding and your friends and, you know, all
Your
of the
foraging
husbandry
or
things, you
yeah,
know, which all contribute
movement.
to how quickly and how well the horse responds to those other interventions, right? And so that's
Mm-hmm.
where it's layers of foundations upon each other, and it's the order
Mm-hmm.
that you do it. If you do the surgery and they have no husbandry support and they have no limb support and they have no environmental support and they have no, you know, body support, then they're just going to go exactly back to where they were because you didn't change anything. And
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
where what Betsy's saying about all these other interventions that we can do, it's like we can we take that horse that's in an adaptive compensatory posture and has a symptom of kissing spine, we get rid of that adaptive compensatory posture, we may not have that symptom anymore. And that's exactly what happened
Exactly.
with this horse.
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah.
you know, why I've always embraced, you know, the balance of movement and the surefoot pads and, you know, you know, all of these different modalities, but you can't just be extending. You can't just be releasing. You can't just
No.
be depressing. You can't just
No.
be activating. You know, you have to know the order of go, and your horse has to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do what you want it to do the way that you want to do it. And that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of where the horse is a great teacher to tell you how to do that if you know actually how to listen. And you know, I
Mm-hmm.
hope that we can get Marthe through this phase. I mean, to me,
Absolutely.
like that'll be a real testament to this process if we can, you know, get him in a self carriage, you know, at these trot and canter and like, you know, these other gates, right? And get him to
Mm-hmm.
keep him there. And so,
Well, I was going to tell you, like, I sent you a little video of my mare last night. So, for you guys who don't know, so I bought an off the track quarter horse who I had basically just retired. So it took 4 years to finally find her kissing spine diagnosis because, again, it was like I bought her as a 4-year-old. She probably fused when she was 3, maybe. And it took this long. But when me and Rachel started talking about this stuff, I was like, oh, well, she's got all these things, and I kind of was feeling like this is what it is. And I don't know what else to do to fix her. But her limbs are not great. And I thought, again, anatomically, there's nothing I can do about it because of her pelvis. And so I'm going to trim my horse again last night. And if you guys follow me, I posted the progress I've made on her feet. Is it perfect? No. Are her other feet as good? Not quite. But that's her high club foot. And we've developed some new soft tissue. She's feeling way more comfortable. She's been turned out. So we talked a lot about lifestyle. So she's been turned out basically for 2 years. And now I've been intentionally walking her, doing the homework that Rachel, we're doing in the class. I'm doing it with my own horse. And,
I'm doing it with my horse.
Last night, we're doing it with our own horses. So last night I went out and I cleaned up her front feet a bit more and I trimmed her back feet and I really got looking and I really balanced her heels and she grows a lot of hoof wall actually on her back feet, but oh my God, it was amazing. And she stood up and then I walked her in activation a few times and then I went and she was literally trying to run circles around me when I'm trying to and because she's feeling so good. I was just like, I can't even believe this is my horse. Like, you guys understand, I was getting to the point I started doing her feet because I was going to put her down because she could not stand for my farrier to trim her. She was trying to kill him. Well, not that she was trying to kill him, but it was getting that dangerous. She's a large quarter horse and she could not stand on 3 legs and it was getting bad. And I didn't know how else to support her. And I was like, well, if we can't take care of her feet, like, I can't have a horse that you don't provide hoof care to. Like, and if she's that painful, right, is what I was thinking in my head. She's that painful. She can't stand on 3 legs. Oh my God. But here's this mare now. I'm trying to do my straight lines and she's trotting off everywhere. But like, because she's feeling so good, I just balanced her back feet and did some activated walk. And she's just full of life. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to ride her. I'm going to ride her this weekend and I'll report back because that, like so again, for context, my mare used to walk like a snail, guys. Like she could not call energy up. Like it was so hard for her. But again, she's very compressed. So now we're expanding and I've taken photos and I'm like, she looks different. And then last night when I was walking her after I did her back feet and we did the activated walk, I was like, oh my God, her lumbar is actually moving. So she actually had soft tissue fluidity and I'm looking and I'm like, it looks smoother. Her junction looks different. And then I turned her out and she took off like a bat out of stink and went running around her field and like running. Oh, got her friends all running and slammed on the brakes and turned the other way and took off. And I'm like, okay, so my horse is not so broken after all. And she's just like,
wow.
She's literally like, you're talking about verticality, right? Well,
yeah.
She's doing this spring load.
Suspension. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. That's
I'm like, who are you? Like,
suspension is my birthright. I'm telling you,
yes,
suspension is my birthright. That's, and it's all in the limbs. And that's what, everybody talks about this and they talk about the lumbar spine and they show themselves bending and they don't understand these are bloody quadrupeds. These are tables.
Quadrupeds.
They are tables. They are tables with 250-pound lever arms. That's it. And the hind end is, it's a loaded, what was that?
Oh, you're saying hydraulics? Like,
it's a hydraulic lift. Yeah. The hind end is a hydraulic lift. I mean, it is beautifully coupled so that the stifle and hock always flex together. I mean, think about that. That's a freaking hydraulic lift. If that isn't working like hydraulic, if that hydraulic lift is stuck, you are stuck at your hip, your stifle, and your hock. And that is every single horse. You see them planing across the ground in these horizontal things with no suspension. Oh, that's the way he goes. It's like, oh, that's,
that's where I was like, I did
that's
her.
Awesome.
I balanced her
I'm
for
so
heels.
excited. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited.
It was so good. I wish I would have had it on video, but it was windy and everything. But
hopefully there'll be another
so
video.
Neat. Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna ride her this weekend and just get on and see because like I get on her bareback and ride her
right,
like cruise around right or whatever. But yeah, she's gonna. I know because I'll get on her and I'll feel different. Yeah.
Right. That kind of expression of feeling good, and when you can see it and when you see that energy start to move and you see those meridians and that chi filling
Well,
them
and she was
up.
like standing up, like the same thing.
Yeah,
Like she wants to load immediately, like
right.
she really wants to load like this. So I really balanced up her heels, and then like at one point she just stood. She stood back, she
Yeah.
stood on her leg and was pushing the ground away. And I was like,
Well,
holy, that's different.
that's like my
Hmm.
minis, like heel, like walking, like,
Hmm.
I mean, they're literally walking like I mean, with these heel
Yeah,
landings. I'm like, that is
yeah,
just the foot care. I mean, I don't even,
yeah,
well, actually, I've actually done a little bit of
yeah,
work with them. I have to, they've done, I have, I mean, I do them at Liberty,
yeah,
and I get behind them
yeah,
and they actually have changed. Their bodies have
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
collected a
They look
little bit,
different. Yeah.
and they're starting to move differently. And these are just like feral broodmare minis. So, yeah, no, it is,
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's awesome. This was a great
It's so
conversation.
fun. It's so fun. Yeah.
I'm
I'm glad we
I'm
did this
gonna,
too.
yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording here.
Okay, that's good there.